Welcome to the Escape Room, the place where small business owners get together and talk about life and daily challenges. I'm your host, Armin, and my today's guest is Vram Martirosyan, the owner of Prudence Enterprises International, logistic company, supply chain freight, and my longtime friend, very active person in community, and very interesting person to have a conversation with. Welcome to the podcast, Vram. Thanks for stopping by.
Hello, Armin. Thank you for having me. I think this is a great pleasure to be at your studios. Looks very nice, and congratulations on the show.
Thank you. And the first question, as I always ask, how did you start the business, and what made you start your journey?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. It's always fascinating when people ask you that question because it's a very big step that you take, going from the employment sector to the ownership and building a business. It was about 2012, 2013. I was traveling overseas, and I had just about had it with working with corporations, jumping from one thing to the other, developing and trying to find my place in the marketplace. And I was actually in a foreign country, and I was sitting there, and I said, what would I want to do if I go back? Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of money to work with, just very little money. I just wanted to come back, take that money out, invest it, and try to see what I can build. The good part about it was that I was willing to take the risk. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've been told before, they say the major decision making and becoming your own business owner is 50% of it is risk. Willing to take that risk. And I was actually trying to convince myself to take that risk. And I said, listen, what do I got to, lose? If I don't, I'll just jump back into the workforce, go on and do what I'm best at doing in supply chain logistics, moving things all over the world, internationally, nationally. Came back, thought about it for maybe another couple of days, and I jumped into buying my two 18-wheeler semis. Mm-hmm. About the first one, put it on the road. Bought the second one, put it on the road. And it was going pretty well. It felt good. I was employed at the time. Would finish work at 3. I had an office that was right next to the place that I was working. It was a small $300 a month office. And lunchtime I would run down there, get some work done. I would run up to the workplace, get that work done, and at 3:00 I was done with work, and I was at the office just working and working and working. And that pretty much what got me started.
That's awesome. And so, as you mentioned, you actually didn't quit your job right away. You actually kind of secured your position, but while taking risk and transitioned slowly from being employed to becoming a business owner.
Yeah.
And at which point you actually felt that you're ready to cut your steady income by being employed and just go full 100%?
So my whole idea was that once I'm able to make at least the monthly salary that I'm making at my workplace for over 6 months, then I feel comfortable enough to say, okay, I'm going to turn in my notice. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to go back or I'm going to go into my office and start doing my thing and just not go back to work anymore and just start building my own business.
When did you feel that you're actually an entrepreneur or business owner, whatever you want to call it, at the point when you started working for yourself or whenever you hired the first person?
That's a tough question because for a long while, I wasn't feeling that because, as a business owner, you're putting perhaps double the time or triple the time in. And you feel like, okay, did I just get myself into this mess? Like I'm doing triple the work. Uh-huh. I'm making probably the same or just a little bit more than what I used to make working, 8 to 3 for someone else. But then you start kind of realizing that you have more leniency with time to yourself. You have, you're the man in charge of your own schedule. And that's when you start realizing that, it is my business. I'm enjoying it. It is something that I'm pretty much building for myself. I think when I realized that I'm so comfortable and I'm a business owner and I'm an entrepreneur is when my next expansion happened, because 2 trucks, 2 18-wheeler semis turned into 12 rigs, 12 18-wheeler semis. Oh. And when I had put in the order for the rigs and I had gotten all the drivers hired, and I went down to Fontana, California to pick up the rigs, and I wanted to make this show out of it because it was just going to make me feel good, right? So we went to Fontana, California. I had all the guys with me, and then we were driving the rigs back. And I said, I'm going to be the first car to go. You guys all come with me because I just wanted that whole train. Feeling, right? And that's when I kind of looked back in the mirror, and I was proud of myself, and I was happy that I was able to,
Are you coming from entrepreneur or business owner family background, or you're the first one in your family?
No, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad, in '92, when we immigrated into the United States, started doing 2 jobs, and then soon after he got into small business, and then that's what he had been doing, and then he got into trucking. He was actually a truck driver. So we're 3rd generation in this business. My grandfather was a truck driver. My dad was a truck driver. I don't have a CDL. Yeah, I don't have a CDL, but I got into the business, and till today, I don't even have a CDL. And then, of course, we got rid of the assets, and then once the assets were gone, because of business and financial constraints, I didn't want to hold the assets anymore, and I just wanted to move to the service providing of the business, where Prudence Enterprises came into the picture, and we started doing strictly supply chain, freight brokerage, and logistics.
Well, I'm pretty sure that you got hit hard during COVID, and what was the scariest thing for you?
So the scariest thing during COVID was when they were announcing the shutdown of businesses and closures, not so much shutdown, but closure of businesses. To us, it was, well, what are we going to do? But I had one comfortable thought that kept me going, was that I'm probably going to not get shut down or put out of service for business, because majority of our business is specifically in food and produce. So people had to eat. Yeah. Our only thing was that, are we now going to have increased capacity in the marketplace, as far as equipment, where people are going to shift their business from dry goods to the produce side, and this was going to take away a lot of our business and cause a lot of competition, where I had to then either have people leave or not be able to supply the same work force that we had, because it was just we just didn't know where we're headed, what was going to happen. And of course, being on the produce and food side of the business, we had a lot of restaurants closing down. So there was a lot of loss in the marketplace as far as, food being sold to restaurants, because restaurants consume over 40% of the food market, if not more. And so we were definitely looking into the future. We were thinking, okay, if this goes on for about 3 months or 6 months, we're definitely going to see the decrease. But how, we couldn't predict it, because it was never seen before.
Yeah. Well, we're recording this in mid-June 2022, and hopefully it's going to be aired beginning of July. And as of now, we just hear news about increased inflation, beginning stages of recession, stock market collapse, everything is in red. And I personally feel in my business a lot of tension, and people are more aggressive, and you can tell that something's building up. My first question is, do you have the same feeling in your field? And what kind of prediction you can make, if you can? Is it going to get worse than during COVID? And are you actually ready to keep up with the stress? Because that's my main concern as of today.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, and it kind of relates to all businesses, and us being in supply chain, the front runner of, things happening, in our marketplace reflects on down to the consumer and other businesses, even business to business operation, because when things are not being supplied, consumers don't have what they want to buy, and, then it becomes a problem across the marketplace or across the entire economy. But like they always say, after the earthquake comes the aftershock, and that might cause more damage. So the big problem here was COVID, and after COVID, we're getting the shock waves now, right? It was a total shutdown of the entire world. We're opening up. Inflation is high, and if you take a look at the economy chart, and you take a look at what all the major factors that can cause inflation and where that can lead to, we've almost hit every single bullet point. Yeah. And one of the biggest ones, where the Secretary of Treasury was talking about 2 weeks ago, when she said that we actually did not, or we miscalculated inflation and the effects of it. And the next thing she said is we had not taken the supply chain bottleneck into consideration. And that's exactly what's happening now, where, just the entire economy has opened up. People want to buy, items are not available. I'm sure you guys go to the supermarket, you guys go to the local malls, and are always having problems trying to get the goods that you would like to get. Because again, these, when you go to raw materials, it kind of starts with raw materials, right? People don't, or the corporations producing the raw materials don't have the same workforce to bring them back to produce the same quantity. They're not able to then transfer that over to the other companies where they have to mix these ingredients and make something out of it. That be from cotton to clothing, or that be just simple powders that go into baby formulas, out to the consumer and the parents. So, we kind of, and I'll speak on demand, right? So when you're doing business to business operation, and you're projecting about 12 to 18 months for demand. You're saying in about 12 to 18 months, historically, these are the figures that we've seen that the consumers are going to demand. But now we can't. We don't have a chart to go off. Or the manufacturers, and then it leaps down to us to kind of get it from them to see how much stuff that's coming in. Or some of the stuff even coming in are not being able to come on shore from the sea, because they're just stuck at the ports, and there's a lot of congestion caused there. So we're just not able to, actually see that, or pinpoint and say this is what the demand is going to look like and how we're going to supply it. So all of this is now the aftershock, right? And between supply, inflation, your interest rates going up, and just everything becoming harder, that's what's causing for people to be more aggressive. And we're seeing that because now people have to work twice as hard, because
right after they were not working at all and getting free money.
So it's hard. Can you imagine not working, and then all of a sudden you're going from not working to working, and now you have to do double the work, and you were getting free money. You were probably saving a little bit of that, right? And now they're running out of that money, and they're not seeing any other free money coming in or any other help coming in. So that's stressing them out. What are we going to do? That uncertainty is causing people to just be on the edge. And then when you go back and you take a look at service providers, right? Service providing companies, restaurants or department stores and so on. Service has sunk in the United States. I mean, some countries maybe didn't have it, but here you just don't have service because a lot of the employees are overworked or stressed out, and they don't even care about providing service to you. So when you used to just go to the restaurant or go to the mall just to get cut off and have that nice hello, how are you? How can we help you? Can we help you find the right product? Or here's your plate of, or dish to enjoy with a nice wine. No,
you don't get that.
You don't get that anymore. Here's your plate. Eat it. And if it's not good,
we're limited.
It's your problem. We're limited.
Yeah.
So that's
2 hours to get out of here. Yeah. That's true. The tough times are coming. That's definitely. It's going to happen the way I see it in my field as well. And what's the hardest part for you to stay afloat? The financial part, or as a leader to show enough confidence to your team so they don't panic? Because the human factor is very important. Financial part, I understand you can have some cash cushion to stay afloat, not to collapse. And we're not even sure if it's going to be enough for us. Mm-hmm. But as a leader of a company, I'm facing that issue every time. The biggest challenge for me was to stay calm during COVID and not to panic, so that my team won't panic and we can stay organized. How do you fight that? How do you do?
So one thing that I've said before is that after COVID, we have to be very resilient. We have to show resilience. If we don't, with that, show the confidence and try to make the best out of it, we're never going to overcome this. And I'm seeing that happen a lot. Why? Because, you have people that were working for you that are doubting the industry because they're looking for other, opportunities. Sometimes not realizing that all other businesses or other types of business, or not all, I should say, but majority of them are probably in the same boat as you are. But these uncertainties are causing your, employees, your employment force to start questioning what they're doing. So in turn, you have to continuously try to motivate them and make them feel like, we need to treat this, like every day a new day, and we need to kind of project as much as we possibly can and
stay
organized, keep the business that we have, treat our customers better, because right now nobody cares. And one thing that we can do in our business, at least, is treat the customers better, give better customer service. And, I don't know, that's pretty much, the way, that I think when it comes towards attitude, resilience and constant positivity. But when it comes to the financial side of it, like in our business, we used to do less volume, more margins. Now, to make the same amount of margins, we have to increase the volume, but the volume is really not there. So we're really scavenging for, that business that's out there to say, customers usually that you wouldn't call and you would just wait for them to call. Now you're scavenging. So you're calling them and saying, hey, how about that 1 or 2, shipments that you have? I'll get you something better. Well, so now you're trying to kind of compensate on the losses on the margin side of it with volume that you can bring in. And then you try to spend less, right? You try to spend less. Throughout COVID, we were lucky that we had everyone stay because we were considered essential. Because food has to move, as I said. So we had everyone stay, and people were doing their best to, work whichever means that was available for them to do, either remote, home, cell phones, whatever, coming to the office, not fully, but, periodically. So nobody left, but at the same time, you're trying to be very careful about your, expenditures, and try to say, like, for example, the other day I was sitting down and I said, what if we go into a total collapse, right? If there was let's take the extreme, the total economic collapse, and it was going to last for 1.5 years. Do I have enough saved?
What do you save for that?
Right now, the only thing that you can think about is cash, right? Do you have enough cash that you can save?
if it collapses that hard, in my opinion, all you need to save is water and bullets. That's all you need.
Yeah. Very interesting. You asked me, what do you save? Because a friend of mine, my childhood best friend, he asked me today, he said, well, are you ready for it if that happens? Early in the morning. He called me 7:30 in the morning. I was still, waking up, and we got into this conversation. He said, if that happens, are you ready for it? I said, well, how would one be ready for it? Because the food reserve is only 90 days. If it gets hit, then we have to start growing, right? And I'm talking about food reserve throughout the world is 90 days. And I'm picking from the farms or just getting warehouses emptied out to the shelves. And then if you're talking about cash, if you don't have cash, it's a total collapse because cash doesn't matter anymore. It just becomes paper. He said, well, do you have gold? I said, well,
who's going to buy it?
Who's going to buy it? Unless you're just going to take it into little pebbles or cut your diamonds in half and, sell it off. So it's scary to even think about that because I don't know if you heard, Armin. So George Soros, great businessman to many. For me, just for his political views, I'm not too fond of him and his way of doing things. But economically, he's an influential person, right? And so on and so forth. So he was actually he gave a speech at the Davos Economic Forum that was happening recently.
Yeah,
and it was scary what he said. He said that with the worldwide inflation and supply chain issues, we are looking at not a recession, but a full-on worldwide depression, which will be the first one throughout the history of humanity. Yeah. And that, coming from a caliber of a man as him, at the Davos Economic Forum, which is an international economic forum, is scary.
Yeah.
So
it is. It is scary. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only thing you can save, and I don't think that's enough either, just to have enough bullets and clean water, because it's going to be chaos. I mean, people are going to get rid of that. Well, hopefully we'll not get there. And we're still located in a very strong country, in my opinion. And hopefully that people will have enough sanity not to get to the extreme levels, because nobody needs that. How big is your team?
We're 7. We're a total of 7. And
do you have regular meetings with them, or you just talk on a daily basis?
So we used to have regular meetings with them. And we used to have more so where we had kind of call it goal alignment. Mm-hmm. It was something that I brought from a company that I used to work for. And so pretty much what it is you have a very quick half-hour meeting and you talk about what are your problems for today, what are your problems for the week, meaning as in short-term problems, long-term problems. What does the employee facing the challenges see, or how they see this being resolved? And then at the next meeting, they're supposed to give some form of a communication for progress or resolution. And then you measure people on KPIs. I was looking at KPIs today, and when you're talking about KPIs, you kind of are looking for, your KPIs in volume, your KPIs in margins, your KPIs in claims in our business. So you're constantly keeping an eye on all of that. And what's good about us is that we are pretty much a license holder of a bigger company. So Prudence Enterprises holds the license in partnership with to operate under England Logistics.
So it's like a franchise.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Not a franchise. They call it an agency.
I see.
And so in England Logistics is one of the top 5 freight brokerage and logistics companies in the United States. And we also have meetings with them once a week where we talk about just the entire industry, share, the different offices, different agencies, including corporate. A team will jump on and we'll talk about what's happening. How do we see things, moving forward? turbulence we're seeing in the marketplace. For example, 2 weeks ago, we were taking a look at just, I was actually in another meeting throughout other brokers outside of our network. We kind of have small meetings and talk about our shared experiences. And we're taking a look at the entire load index versus, for example, truck capacity index, truck index, equipment. We had a negative 21 points in the load index sector of it, while trucks or the capacity was at 1.78. So you're talking about, there was roughly thinking, I want to say like maybe 17 point something more equipment out there than actual freight to be moved.
Wow.
Which, if this continues, a lot of those guys are going to come out. A lot of I don't want to say your small guys or the big guys, but those medium-sized companies where really are trying to
don't have flexibility,
are probably going to close their doors in the next 6 to 8 months.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Do you have a degree, some kind, in business or no?
No, I don't. Okay. Yeah, I went to high school. I went to college. I was in my political science class. Didn't agree with the political science professor. We got into an argument. I left college and never went back.
Why am I asking? I mean, all of us, whenever you decide to start business, thanks to your passion, you're hustling and bustling and running around and fighting, you make your business stay afloat, alive, beat the competition, but sooner or later you're facing, you're reaching to a level that you're facing a problem that you don't have enough knowledge to grow bigger. So my question is, do you attend any seminars? Do you take your team with you? How do you solve that problem? Because in my example, before you answer, I actually faced that a few years ago, and my decision was just to read more books about business and attend seminars to at least have an idea where to go.
Yeah.
So what do you do for that?
Very good question. Actually, you're ahead with that. I've recently convinced myself to do that, to be able to kind of belong in network environments with strictly business network environments or seminars or so on and so forth, where I can learn from others in areas where I have challenges. I haven't taken that step. I want to say, within our industry, within our company, for example, in the England entire marketplace, we do have like once a year conferences and stuff like that, you know, they encourage you, and corporate gives you a lot of guidance and coaching on that. And especially when it comes to new customers and how to kind of go through your challenges, and they try to help you out as much as they can. But for me to kind of go out of our network and be involved, I haven't, but that is on my list of things that I would like to.
So you pretty much reached the level that you feel that you need to get more knowledge about it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm at a place where I do need more knowledge in moving, you know, the company to the next level.
There's I forgot which book was it, but I read that pretty much when you start a business and it generates up to $1.5 million a year, you can handle it yourself or with a team of a couple of people. From 1 to 5 million, that's when you feel that you need to know more. And when your business passes $10 to $20 million revenue a year, you have to hire professionals. Yeah, so even at that level, even your knowledge is not enough anymore. You gotta hire professionals.
No, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. My biggest challenge is in sales, right? So, I'm not a sales guy.
Yeah.
I'm not a sales guy. I mean, sales, you have to have a special talent to make that happen. I'm a business guy. I'll stay at the office 24 hours if I have to do it myself. I'll just get it done. I'll just figure it out how to do it and move. But for example, yeah, if you got to, in my field, expand my company, then I got to bring sales, people that come from sales background, professionals, to say, maybe that's what you're doing wrong. And you need to do it this way to be right, and go for some of the bigger sharks, bigger guys,
I see. Do you read books, and what kind of books? If yes, which genre you like more?
Very interesting. I read books, but the books that I read is far away from business. So, majority of books that I read is in philosophies, and history, and politics.
And can you name your favorite one if you have?
48 Laws of Power.
48 Laws of Power. Yeah, I marked that.
Yeah. It's good. It's an interesting book. It's kind of like you see a lot of art of war in there.
Do you like rereading them?
No, I don't. It's and I'll tell you why. Because I'm not a fast reader, and I choose not to fast read. When I read, I find myself sometimes that I'll stop and I'll be dazed and I'll be thinking about digesting and thinking about the writers or the sentences or the paragraphs, psychology, philosophy, or the meaning behind the meaning, why, or what is this? I'll kind of dive in, or I'll go into the world of the imagination about what I just read. So that's, I think, what keeps me excited with reading books on philosophies and politics and so on. So politics, is a philosophy of its own, right? It's
understanding human behavior and manipulating.
Exactly, and playing the chess game
on bigger scale. Yeah. That's true. And I understand as a entrepreneur, you don't have much free time, but when you get some free window, what's your favorite way of spending that time? Alone, with friends, with family?
With friends, with family is pretty much where I like to spend a lot of my time when I have time to myself. I don't like to be alone. I'm a very extrovert. I'm not an introvert at all. So I like to socialize. I like to be around people. And if people are busy, then I'm looking around to see what's happening around town that I can show up and just meet new people. Just socialize and meet new people.
Yeah. I'm totally opposite. The older I get, more I have a feeling of maybe I should stay alone by myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to see anyone. So yeah, I guess it's age. And what's your daily discipline? Do you like to work out, meditate, yoga, or how you stay focused pretty much, or like what's your daily routine that keeps you stay in shape?
So I'm going to go back to pre-COVID, then post-COVID. So pre-COVID, I had a very good routine going on. You wake up at this hour, you're working. I usually start work at home, and then I would go to the office. And then I would go to the gym, and I was at the gym maybe like 4 days a week for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, just working out, relaxing, talking to the guys that, at the gym, and living in a city and doing business in a city where I grew up. I kind of know everybody that goes to the gym too. So it was a nice environment to do that. And then I would go home and I would make myself a little bit of a dietary dish and drink my protein shake and go to bed. And then come Friday, Saturday, you were enjoying your weekend. So everything changed after COVID because, again, gyms were closed. Everything was closed, throws you out of routine. You're not constantly going to the office. Some days you're staying home more. You're becoming literally lazy.
Yeah.
So the first 2 months I was out running, exercising around town and trying to do that. And then that kind of stopped. And then now post-COVID, everything is on steroids. and you're running around. So I barely get any sleep. I'm constantly getting phone calls for work. I wake up probably about 6 o'clock in the morning, and start work at home, and then make myself to the office, work late, get out, go home, sometimes back to my computer at the house, and doing some more work. So that's pretty much, work has become almost everything. One thing I do is the day before, or a couple of days before, depending, if how much time I want to give myself to do this, I write my to-do list, because sometimes it becomes so much you forget. And one thing I like doing with the to-do list is when you have that list and you're crossing things out and you're seeing the list kind of shrink, it gives you that positivity and fulfillment to say, okay, I got this done, let me add a couple more things. There you go. So you have that too. And it helps. And I keep telling people, write it down. Don't put it in your phone. Yeah. Because I have a to-do app on my phone and I barely visit it. And it doesn't work. But when you have this and you're sitting there and you're taking your pen and just crossing it out, it feels good.
That's true. Yeah, that's my number 7, and I keep the previous ones always. I never destroy them.
Yeah, I do the same. Yeah. I keep, because sometimes you just want to remember when it was, and I date it. So I'll have the dates too. And when sometimes you just want to go back and remember something you did. When was it? And I like to always have proof. It's and somebody says, well, we didn't get that email, or we didn't get this, or we didn't do that. So I don't want to go back and spend the time on searching. I'll put a date on it and I'll know when. Right. You know what I'm saying? So when you put a timestamp on it, then you can say, hold on a second, let me pull it out.
Yeah. And do you like to travel?
I love traveling. Yeah.
And how often you can, not financially, physically and time-wise, afford to do that?
So another good thing about my work is you can pretty much do it from your laptop from anywhere. Mm-hmm. Okay, as long as you have internet, you can do it anywhere. What was interesting is last year, 2021, July, I was in Armenia, and I was in the rural parts of Armenia, and then we had gone glamping down in the southern region of Armenia, in the Sunnik region of Armenia. Uh-huh. And there was a small village, and I had cell phone battery, and I got a text message that I had to get on and do something for work. And it was me. I had to do it. I couldn't have anyone else back home do it. And there I was trying to get on Wi-Fi. And then the local village had a restaurant where they had the restaurant had a Wi-Fi which wasn't that far away. And I was hooked onto that Wi-Fi working out of, a small little village in Sunnik, Armenia, doing glamping and, 4 o'clock in the morning, just typing away and working. And I found that very interesting. I said, if I can do this here, and I can probably do it at Bora Bora, sitting at the beach and just enjoying a cocktail. So it gives me leniency to kind of travel and take my laptop and do what I got to do, and still look at what's happening here. I travel every year. I try to pick, different I'm more comfortable with the same places, I guess, when it comes to destinations. I'm not too comfortable with, I shouldn't say comfortable, but I'm not too about to say, oh, maybe I should go to, I don't know, the Himalayas or whatever. Random place. I like to go to familiar places. Yeah. So that's best ever was my 2019. Where I did 7 destinations.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. And when it comes to predicting future and building up your business, you have some kind of hope. I mean, I do in my case, that I'm gonna leave something after me, that it's gonna grow bigger or transfer into something. So what's your legacy? What kind of legacy you want to leave after yourself?
So the legacy is yeah, it's always nice to build a business that's something that you can leave behind and say, I left behind something or transfer it over. Here's my thing. I wouldn't want my kids to be in the logistics business. It's a tough business to be part of. They're better off doing some other stuff. So I think as far as business, I'd love to build a company to a place where I can one day proudly say I've done what I did and I need to now sell it or pass it on or whatever and move to the side and just retire and enjoy myself. And then that's when the work of legacy will come in, because again, the work of legacy for me is in touching human lives in positive ways and creating a legacy in that form where you do things that matter for people, whether it's nonprofit organizations, whether it's humanitarian organizations, and you do things and you leave things behind, and that you've touched the hearts and minds and lives of individuals, and it meant so much for them. I think that's the type of legacy that I want to leave behind, rather than just concentrated around the business world.
I see. So pretty much a business should just support you financially so you can do...
It's means, yeah.
Yeah,
it's just means.
And as a parent, I keep asking this question to all my guests. And do you see your business around in 20 years?
No. And I'll tell you why. So
not personally your company.
No, just the field. I mean, the business is probably going to be automated, just like everything else, right? We had where was he at? I'm trying to remember where he was at, but this was a recent conversation that Elon Musk had, right, where they asked him, where do you see in automation of just the entire workforce? I mean, you can do things right now, automate things in the administrative sector, which is the hardest, right? Because you need administration all the time, because it just needs the human brain power to do so. And more so with us right now, you need that middle person to kind of get things moving. But in 20 years, when you do have finally, I don't think in 5 or 10 it's going to happen, but in 20, I'm hopeful, you do have automated trucks, or driverless trucks, and you have an entire TMS system, transportation management system, where it doesn't necessarily need the human, factor in there to be able to make this thing happen. The business is probably not going to be there. And Musk was talking about this. He said that, a lot of these jobs are going to go away, and what are we going to do with the people? Because the people need to make the money to be able to survive. So Musk was saying that, he thinks that a lot of these things, it's going to get automated. So how are we going to, feed pretty much the human population? He believes that we're probably going to have some form of universal income, which kind of sounds socialist, right? But having the capitalist mindset that I have, and I go, why? The machine that is going to be automating the position, for example, for 5 people, right? If a robot or a computer program is going to automate the work of 5 or 10 people, those people should be given the opportunity to invest into that robot or that program. It might cost, I don't know, $2 million. 5 people buy their shares into that robot, or however it is, or they get assigned, and they're now responsible, or I shouldn't say responsible, but entitled to making royalties off of the work that robot does, who otherwise, or decades before, they would have been doing the work manually. So that's the kind of outlook I have on how we should not go into just universal income, but have people invest into the robotics and make their royalties in the marketplace in that sense. So
that's an interesting point of view. Aren't you scared? I don't want to call it scared, but don't you think that if the whole mankind gets to a point that robots do everything for them and they just get money off of it, it's just gonna degrade the quality of life, and people are just gonna get stupider and stupider, or lazier or lazier.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to shifting the world in that direction, I have another interesting outlook. It comes kind of from my philosophies of, an outlook on life and advancement of life into the future. You have to advance society. You have to shift society. This is how I genuinely see it. You can't, and we've shifted society from the past, and this shift will continuously happen. We've shifted society in a way where people were actually doing the manual labor, and those jobs turned into complete robots now operated by humans, right? The industrialization and so on and so forth. And I think we're shifting life again. And why I'm not too afraid is that now we have to not cap the person or just see the person. If we truly want a survival of future civilizations, right, or human civilization, and not a total collapse, then we have to be able to create ways where humanity is expanding into the sciences and mathematics and using their brain power at a better capacity to be able to now explore life beyond the Earth and into the, into the sci-fi that we believe now is sci-fi, but it perhaps has a place in the future. And we have to shift society to go from that and find a new purpose. And it has to be a grander purpose. It has to be something bigger than we imagine right now. But nobody in the 1700s or 1800s would imagine the computers, the automation or the robotics of 21st century. So it's possible. We're going to have to shift society. We're going to have to get there. We're going to have to make sci-fi into reality. And that's the only way that we can guarantee the survival of future civilization, or else it's going to be a total collapse.
Do you think we'll be able to catch up with artificial intelligence in 20 years? Even if we push the whole mankind, all 8 billion people into mathematics and philosophy. Your point of view is very, very interesting, and I have similar vision, but I think we just have to get to the point that material things doesn't matter anymore. Mm-hmm. That's the only way that we can pretty much evolve. Otherwise, we're just...
You're 100% right. You're 100% right. And if you see in the future, if you see a lot of these sci-fi movies, right, materialism doesn't matter anymore. It has absolutely no place in the future. And I believe maybe the writers of those movies or shows are seeing the same thing that you're seeing, because materialism doesn't matter. It's about survival. It becomes truly about survival, about taking, going from this world to the others to be able to survive and keep the civilization going, which is the most important thing, life, right? You continue to push this forward. And, you said something interesting. You said, do you think we're going to be able to compete with AI? I don't think we need to be worried about competition between AI and humans. I think we have to be very careful, and I genuinely believe this, that AI and artificial intelligence and humans will become one. And I've believed this. There is now... Here's where we talk about the crazy imagination of Vram, right? So I've always believed this. And when I used to talk about this, people would think you're crazy. That's never going to happen. I used to say that there's probably going to be a time where they're going to upload memory. You're going to have to pay for it, upload information. And now they're actually talking about it, with fiber optics and everything else. What is information? Energy. How do you transfer it from form one energy into another energy? Is by understanding or what do you call it? Synchronizing both energies to be able to read each other. So what holds us from doing that if we're going to the world of AI in the future? So that's how we become AI and human as one.
I think that's going to be the best solution for us, because if we get to the point that AI and computers and robots are as smart as we are, we might get to a point that they may come up with a law that we're not allowed to make them work for us anymore. That's going to be scary.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that's... then we go back to Stargate, right? We have to find a way to hop on and start civilization all over again from the beginning. Yeah. But
that's very scary. Yeah. And about uploading, I think that's already started. My favorite way of actually reading books is not reading, it's listening, and that's what you pretty much do. You just download the information to your ear, and it's very much possible to later on just to plug in some chip and upload Mortal Kombat or whatever
you want to do and however you want to do that, right? And that's when I think human and AI will become one. And I don't think anything is wrong with that. It's just a matter of, if it goes synchronized with life, because if one exceeds the other, then you're talking about the AI and human competition and
well, how about choosing a profession for your child? That's another problem.
You can't.
Not forcing him. At least what to suggest. Because whatever I see, most of the profession is going to be obsolete in 20 years. And the only thing that's still going to be up and running, I think it's human creativity and philosophical thinking. Because the rest is just calculations that computers can do very well for us.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's...
I think my suggestion would be just go into science. Science, be a front runner in developing some of these cutting edge, technologies and advancement of humanity. Go into science. What's wrong with that? I mean, you're constantly going to learn things, right? You're constantly going to be able to expand on that. Whether there's artificial intelligence or no, you're still going to have the people, the humans that are trying to understand these complex, systems operating with each other. Engineering, maybe, computers can do for you, but I think for at least the next generation, your kids, and the kids in the, growing up now, they're going to have still some place in science and computers, and that's a good field to go into, because can you imagine we're talking about automation now and how much opportunity there's going to be in the future for that.
Yeah. That's the interesting fact that a few hundred years ago, take Marie Curie, take Einstein, Einstein not a few hundred years ago, but Isaac Newton, so the part of Renaissance, science was as popular as celebrities now, like rappers, and they used to host big lectures and get paid well. And I think, you're right. I think we need to concentrate on bringing that back. I think because rapping is not.
It's not going to do it. Can I tell you something? A conspiracy. So I think it was deliberately suppressed, where scientists and innovators in that smart world were not allowed to be as popular as they were in the time periods that you mentioned, and they used, for example, all these entertainers that are not giving anything but just distraction or a moment of, pleasure in listening to a music or watching a movie or listening to or going to a concert, to kind of play down and do a dumbing down factor of population, because whomever is behind this whole thing, right, or governments perhaps jointly, believe that perhaps humanity was expanding and growing at a much higher rate, and we need to kind of slow it down because we're just not ready for it. Or the nature is, it's not always us being ready for it. Nature is not ready for it. Mm-hmm. Because nature has to be ready for it too.
That's interesting. Yeah. Suppressing science.
Suppressing science, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to call the sports people or rappers and comedians as bad thing. They're working hard people as well. They do work hard to be able to shine. It's not that easy, but yeah, I mean, again, going back to the topic of what to suggest to your child, what to choose, the science and philosophy and any creative work should be around, in my opinion. Unfortunately, now my kids wants to follow my profession, and I'm not pushing because you gotta love it. There's no other way of doing it. How far down do you care? How many generations down do you care?
Oh, that's a very hard question. The ultimate goal of humanity is survival, right? Because I'll go back to philosophies. If you're religious and if you believe in God and you believe in doing the best and the better version of yourself to eventually, and I'm Christian, and eventually be able to be worthy to enter the greatness of eternal life, then you must, on earth, in the physical world, understand that the necessity of human survival is a must, because that is the way that, or that is the consciousness that keeps alive the meaning of God and goodness. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, darkness has taken on when we have failed the good life that we have to prove to our great Creator. So, how far do I see? I don't know, but the necessity for the good God who has given us this life and for whom we live for, and for His kingdom who we are trying to enter eternally, we must fight and try to protect and do our best to keep this life going. Mm-hmm. For it is necessary for...
Well, I was expecting a little different answer, but it was a very fulfilling philosophical answer.
Sorry, it's just...
No. The question is... Again, I'm really bad with remembering names of the books, but when there is something interesting, I always kind of highlight. In a recent book I've read, there was a section that says that since kids that were born now, we can expect that they're going to live more than 200 years, 200 to 250 years, we should learn to care more about 5 generations down the road, not 2 generations the most, because you're going to be alive when your grandkids are going to look into your eyes and say, because of your stupidity, we're living in this world now. That was the reason I asked you. But
I think it's a very interesting thing that you brought up, because this has commonly come up, right? There was a meme that was going on during COVID. I think it was during COVID, it was during COVID, where it said, your grandparents, you see their pictures and you sit down right now, our grandparents, we ask them, anything about their life, and they will say in 19 so-and-so and this and the Second War, and I entered Berlin, or we went into the, to the shores of Normandy, and all this and all, they'll give you all these stories, and they'll tell you what they did and amazing work in liberation from the Nazis, and, and so on and so forth, or they have a story to tell you. And then they ask us, what do we do? Nothing. We were just on Facebook arguing with each other, right? And then they're going to look back and say, so the shitty society that you left behind for us, so it's your fault. So you really didn't do anything. You just sat there and just argued your head off on social media, and you didn't get up and,
haven't done it. Haven't
change anything, and just influence it. And you just waited for things to be happen for you. Yeah, and that is embarrassing. It's very interesting that you brought up that point. And I'm sorry that I got a little philosophical. This is why my legacy and why I want to, do the things that I was talking about earlier. And my interest in philosophies and theology too, and all that, and why I gave you that answer. But yes, I mean, 2 generations down, you're looking at your great grandkid, and they're saying, "What the heck did you do?"
Yeah, and now being responsible for 5 generations is no joke.
Yeah.
And do you think that we're gonna be living that long? And would you want to live that long?
5 generations? 2 generations? 5 generations? No. Life is not meant to last that long. Life is meant to, life, it's, can you imagine, living 5 generations, or seeing 5 generations, and take a look at your grandparents right now. How confused were they, for example, when smartphones came out and landline went away? And I'm constantly seeing, elders struggling with technology. Can you imagine technology around if, 5 generations from now, and how you and I are going to sit there and struggle and try to figure out dinosaurs? Exactly. That's exactly what we're going to be.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be experienced.
It's going to be scary. Yeah. That's true. Well, that's yeah. And that's going to affect the economy as well, in my opinion, because the whole point of most of the modern Western countries of struggling and having this budget deficit has the historical explanation. Bismarck, when he was running to become a counselor in Germany, 1800s, he was the first one who actually introduced retirement to get some more votes, and he had simple calculation of average lifespan of human in Europe was 56 years, so he promised full retirement after 60 years old, whoever's 60 years old and up, and most of the advanced countries pretty much followed that lead in few decades after that. And now people are actually living as long after the retirement as before. So the average human is calculated as should pretty much work and pay taxes for 4 years, and after that he should live another 20 years and pretty much die. But people are actually living much longer, and imagine if you live long enough to see 5 generations down the road and retire by the age of 70 or 67, it's not going to be funny. Yeah, the financial aspect is. I
like early retirement. I'll tell you that much.
Early retirement.
Yeah, I think humans deserve to enjoy life a little bit and just not doing anything and doing things that they love. I should say, not just doing because a lot of people that in retirement that I've seen thrive actually end up doing things that they enjoy and they don't have to worry much about money. And those are the people that are actually doing a lot of the good in the world because they have the time to do so. While a lot of the people are kind of stuck in their, in the workforce and they just can't get out there to do other stuff.
Yes and no. I think if you're a type of person that you like to create, you like to discover things, then yeah, of course, financial part, if it's covered, then you're the most productive person. But take a look at kids today. You pay them, you don't pay them, they're sitting on their phones distracted. Yeah. I don't think they're going to be creating anything interesting.
Yeah, so, I don't know. It's very tough to to kind of predict the future of the kids and the generation. I mean, but one thing that I've realized is kids, maybe like even 2 years olds will pick up a laptop, or will pick up an iPad or a smartphone, and they know what to do. I wonder if this is kind of like a genetic mutation that passes on from a parent to a child, and they just, by genetic memory or the DNA memory, are able to then understand these things easily.
Maybe that's how we're going to evolve.
Yeah.
What's your biggest fear as an entrepreneur and as a human? Like, what keeps you awake?
So, two things. Like, every person that is serious about themselves has a family to take care for. And, you always want to make sure that all that you do, you don't fail, because, you have a family, you have loved ones that you care for. And that's a constant fear, right? Because, it's very easy to be able to make 2-3 mistakes and then everything is just gone. And you just have to worry about how to either build it or support the people that depend on you. That's my biggest fear. And second is, in life, we all have our brands, right? Everyone has a name. Everyone has a character. Everyone has a reputation. And to be able to keep that reputation and that character and that richness of that person, right? Where life doesn't force you to derail, to constantly stay on course, because it's very easy to derail. Yeah. A lot of good businessmen have derailed. A lot of wealthy people have derailed. A lot of just regular average Joes have derailed. And it is a constant fear to have, because some people call it destiny. Some people call it, luck or whatever, but in reality, it's things that's happening that leads one to another, and it just derails you, and you have no control. So those are the two things that that when it becomes out of control for you is where my fears are.
And when it comes to your business, what's the biggest fear you have in there?
Just seeing, because of lack of work, or lack of business, losing employees, people that you care for, people that you have continuously encouraged that it's going to be great, it's going to be good, and they're going to make more out of this, because ours is commission, and that their commissions are going to increase. These are, this is what you're seeing. This is how you're seeing things, changing and increasing. And all of a sudden, because of outside influences, for example, out of control, then now you see people leaving, or you can't support them anymore.
Yeah. And let's assume there's somebody who's watching us, and then he's about to make a decision. Should he start his own journey in business, or should he not? What's your best advice that you can give it to him? And is this a good time for him to do it?
So, I think right now people are going to have to be a little bit more secure and stay where they're at, unless there's an absolute opportunity that they cannot, let it be passed on, and for them not to grab it. So this is time of security. If you're comfortable where you're at, just wait. You can take maybe some risks, or if you're really familiar with what you want to do, then you can perhaps start small again. But I like to be comfortable during turbulent times, where, comfortable meaning as in not do anything risky. I've been told otherwise. A friend of mine, who runs a much bigger company than mine, always says, this is a great time to, grab more of the marketplace, and, so on and so forth and everything else. I tend to be a little bit on the conservative side. But if anyone wants to jump into business, I would say, if you're willing to take the risk, take my model. If you can take the risk, that's 50%, and the rest of the 50% is try to have enough saved, or work while you're creating your business, get your business to where you're at least paying yourself between 6 months to 1 year of what you were making at your workplace. Then you can perhaps say, I'm going to leave where I work and do my own business fully and not even worry about it. That model kind of gives you security. As you can see, why I'm very conservative and very taking a secure approach to things.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, but you already answered about do you see recession as a great opportunity to grow? But yeah, you already told me that.
Recession is a great opportunity for people to grow who have piled up. Well, I'll say cash again. I don't know if as we said, we don't know if it's going to be there or not. But if you have enough to go and tap into that, yes, perhaps. Or if you want, if you're a service provider, if you're going to be able to provide extraordinary, because we always, I always hear people saying that it's a great opportunity for us to go grab more business. It's a great, thing. Yeah, but you're in recession. Everybody wants to grab that business. Competition is more. What are you going to provide unless you have enough cash again or enough resources to say, I'm going to work a penny over the dollar while the other guy can't work a penny less than 5 cents over a dollar. And they have to make their 4 cents to be able to survive.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It's money always in tough times will make you money too. But if you don't have enough piled up, you got to be careful.
And you said that you're pretty much keeping it that you secure a little bit of cash to stay afloat. How do you keep the cash? Where do you keep it? Like cash, or it's in
the
invest?
Bank. Yeah,
you invest in it.
No, the S&P sank 20% a couple of days ago. So do I believe investments are good? Yeah, you can probably keep it in investments and so on and so forth, but you want to have a readily available cash. You can have a little bit of money embedded into portfolios and, diversify, get into some, government bonds or whatever, secured investments. You can probably do that. It's nice to have a little bit of that. But at the same time, you want to have readily available cash, right? Yeah. Things change a lot. And in business, I'll give you an example. In the past 2 months, across most businesses, what's happened is especially in credit, right? When you're providing credit providing business, we do provide credit to our customers. Net 30. Right now, the average pay, which was about between 25 to 30 days, has gone to be between 45 to 48 days. So accounts payables for companies have increased. Credit has decreased. Now it's creating cash flow for credit providers like ours, where sometimes you just need to be able to have readily cash available where businesses are not. Today, there was an article published. They were talking about how the interest rates on just business loans are starting to go up. So imagine if you are not able to have a little bit to rely on, and now you have to go with higher interest to borrow to be able to survive because someone else is not able to pay. Yeah. Because payables are at 45 to 48 days across all businesses.
Yeah, I have a few customers as well. They started skipping payments.
Yeah, and then you're probably having problem because of them skipping payments on paying your material providers, right? The people that provide.
I was actually thinking that it's the trends of the economy down the slope is like a slow death. And surviving that is much tougher than cutting short and rebuilding from scratch. Because even if you have enough cash to survive 6 months or a year, what are you going to do after if it doesn't recover? So it's like, it's a very slow and painful death for every business owner. And no matter how ready you are, and I think the market is going to change a lot in all fields. Well, hopefully we'll be around.
One thing I'll tell you to all of us that are in business for ourselves is that never forget that God forbid if that slow death is happening for anybody, never forget that you're still that guy, that first employee of that company that has to still be perhaps the single employee of the company in tough times, because, you still want to keep it going, right? So to one guy that you lose, you have to add on to more on your work, because you're trying to still keep that money within in-house. You don't want the business to leave with an employee.
That's true. But how about the people that are working for you and looking up to? That's my biggest fear.
Well, yeah, as I mentioned,
my biggest fear, not to let them down, because you pretty much know what you're gonna do. Just pretty much roll up your sleeves and get to work. But being responsible and being a good leader that's where you show your good skills of not letting go and keep them around and stay organized. Well, hopefully it won't last that long, and hopefully we're just predicting doom and gloom scenario that will never happen. But again, cash cushion is very important in any business and in any household. So, as you mentioned, first that you're gonna spend this cash, and then we'll switch to bullets.
Yeah,
if it gets to that point. Yeah. Well, it was nice talking to you, Vram, and I'm hoping that this is not gonna be our last meeting. I'm hoping that this podcast is gonna survive and become interesting, and I'll be more experienced by hosting you next time and asking you better questions. And I wish you best of luck in a business and in personal life. And again, hopefully by the time we meet next time we meet, all this toughness is going to go away, and we're going to be discussing more exciting opportunities
and positive opportunities and how to build.
Yeah.
Armin, thank you for having me on the podcast. I think what you have going on here is amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
And a mutual friend of ours, told me about it. I thought it was great, and looking forward to the next time. Appreciate it much.
Thank you.
All right.